Hello. So tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Dr. Faustus, probably more background than about the play. Um, Dr. Faustus is typically associated with a movement known as Renaissance humanism. Renaissance humanism was, you could think of it as the counterpart to the Renaissance in England. So the Renaissance. Chanel, stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Sorry. The Renaissance happened in Italy, and that was more about visual art and architecture. And I'm using very minimalistic terms here, very reductive terms, I should say. I'm simplifying a lot, but in England, well, I'll back up a little. So during the 15th century, some English clerics and government officials traveled to Italy, and they witnessed the Renaissance, which was a cultural and intellectual movement, sort of the rebirth of art and letters. And this was stimulated by a rediscovery of classical texts. And even though it was based in classical texts, it led to a lot of new ideas that manifested in the political and social and economic spheres. So the ideas that we see in the Renaissance are very different to the ideas from the Middle Ages, which is the text that we have been reading, have been from the Middle Ages. And during that period, there's a very different view. I guess the most noteworthy difference for our purposes is the view about God and man's relationship to God. So in the earlier period, God is believed to be at the center of all things, and man should lay down, like literally prostrate himself before God and bow down to God. And it's very important that man knows his place. We see that in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. It's important for Gawain. His lesson is about humility and to realize that he can't be perfect. As long as he admits his faults, he'll be okay. In Beowulf, we see what pride does to Beowulf. It costs him his life. And also we see how the how the Danes suffer because they don't have God. Well, at least that's part of the message. But in Renaissance humanism, or during the Renaissance and with Renaissance humanism, there is a very different view. And I think it can be most easily summarized with the quote that man is the measure of all things. And that was very much the thinking in this time period. It was that man could do anything, and that man is the measure of all things, and that man should not at all limit himself by following the tenets of any religion at all. So it was, I'm looking at the wrong notes. It was, it was a really exciting time. And I have a quote for you. This is from Adam in Pico della Mirandola's Oration on the Dignity of Man. So Adam, Eve and Adam. So Adam says, this is God talking to Adam. God tells Adam, we have made thee neither of heaven nor of earth, neither mortal nor immortal. And that's God speaking to Adam in Pico della Mirandola's Oration on the Dignity of Man. So with freedom of choice and with honor, thou mayest fashion thyself in whatever shape thou wilt prefer. And so that view was very much that man was something special, that he certainly wasn't a god, but that he wasn't just but that he was something more special than had really been acknowledged or realized up until this point. So so we see in England it's more of an intellectual movement than like a visual arts movement as we see in Italy. And one of the largest manifestations is actually in curricular reform, or in educational reform. And one of the areas within that was curriculum, and there was a huge overhaul in terms of both of those, because up until this point people were educated to go into the church, and now the thinking becomes, well, how else can we educate people? What else can we prepare people for other than the church? So that was a huge, as you can imagine, a huge change in thought process. And so it was desirable now that an education prepare people for public service. And now, rather, again, than just being trained for the church, there was a focus on acquiring a broader array of knowledge. And there was also it became desirable to have a greater sense of literacy and cultural knowledge. So there's more emphasis on cultural literacy or culture, and the literature of England. So those are two major changes. Let's see. And what else? I forgot to say, so early in the 16th century, many, well, let's say the wealthy Englishmen and women traveled through Europe and to Italy, and upon returning home back to England, they would often, let's say if they had gone to Italy or if they had gone to Spain or French, they would come home and speak that language. And this was the first time when that happened, and they returned and they showed more of a pride in their own language as compared to the past, when they would go abroad and pick up new languages and try to hold on to them, and let's say use an Italian word here or a French word there, and integrate bits of foreign language into English. There was less of that, and there was a noticeable change in pride in the English language. So I think the most important, let's see, what else did I want to say? I wanted to read a quote to you about Marlowe. So Dr. Faustus, now I should say Marlowe didn't invent this storyline. The original was Goethe, but so the basic story is that Dr. Faustus is a man. Now, another important shift we see at this time, again, it's not, the worldview is not that man should, lay down before God and remain humble. It's more that man is the measure of all things, that man can do anything. It's about celebrating the potential of human endeavor, and and it's just about really exploring and trying everything and being the most that man can be. So there is a shift in drama from a preoccupation with the everyman. So the everyman is just what it sounds like. The everyman is like the average person. Beowulf would not be an everyman. He is a superhero. I think Gawain is probably a good example of an everyman. An everyman is again like the average person. But then every man has some quality that makes him or her, that makes them special. So the preoccupation in earlier times was the everyman and the saving of the everyman's soul. Or maybe you could say that Beowulf is an everyman because he lied to, well, anyway. And so at this time period, because we have this emphasis with man's achievement and man can accomplish anything, and man is neither of heaven or earth, but he's some of both. So the new focus is on the exceptional individual and the saving of the exceptional individual's soul. And so this also presents a change in terms of the philosophical dilemma facing man. So the everyman typically has two types of choice, or one choice, and I'll explain it to you. So let's say I am an everyman. I may have two choices that could bring me self-fulfillment. Let's say, do I stay in New Jersey, teaching at Kane, or do I just quit my job and pack everything up and go out to California, where I really want to live and where I have lived before and where I believe I will be happiest? So that would be two choices which I'm considering, and the purpose of choosing one or the other is for maximum self-fulfillment. So for the exceptional person, the choice is not between one thing or another, looking for self-fulfillment. The choice is, do I exert myself or not? Because in exerting oneself, the exceptional individual goes too far and occupies a realm not intended for a man. So for example, let's take Beyonce, and let's say she's an example of an exceptional woman. When she sings, dances, when she does what she does to be who she is, to be Beyonce, one could very much say that she is no longer just a person. She becomes like a god or a goddess. And in having that tremendous power, she has more power than humans were ever intended to have. So what she should do, the choice for her is, am I to live as Beyonce, knowing that I'm kind of up in this area where only God is supposed to be, or do I sit this out? Do I stop? Do I not exert myself? So those are the choices. So I guess, okay, so Faustus is an example. I'm just giving you the nutshell story here now. Faustus is an example of the exceptional man. When we first meet him, it doesn't say his age. I've always seen him as like late 20s, early 30s, but in some of the films I've seen, he's much older. But anyway, I guess you could picture him at whatever age. There's no reason that he can't be in his late 20s or early 30s. But he has numerous degrees. He has studied, he rattles off 5 or 6 different fields that he's very well versed in. He has practiced medicine and saved many lives, and none of it has brought him any fulfillment. He wants to study black magic. Now, he's very clear about this. He is not interested in helping mankind. He's already done that when he studied medicine. He doesn't care. It brought him fame and recognition, but he wasn't satisfied because, and these are his words, he wants to be able to do things that man cannot do, like raise the dead. That's one thing he says, that if he could do that, then he would be happy being a doctor. But because he can't, because there are things that God can do that he cannot do, he is not satisfied to just be a man. So he wants to have powers to raise the dead, or to make man live forever. That's what he wants. And as far as he can tell, there is nothing he can study, nothing he can do aside from studying this necromancy that is going to give him superhuman powers. So he's conjuring, and one of Lucifer's, I guess we could say, servants, or henchman appears. His name is Mephistopheles. And to make a long story short, Dr. Faustus signs an agreement in blood that, Mephistopheles is going to be his personal servant for 24 years. So for 24 years, Mephistopheles will do pretty much whatever Faustus says. And then at the end of the 24 years, Faustus's soul belongs to Lucifer, and he will spend all of eternity in hell, being, well, whatever people do in hell, that's what he will be doing. So he signs the agreement and he gives no thought to it. He says that he doesn't believe in hell, and then the deal begins, and he asks Mephistopheles some questions, and you get the sense that he's starting to, well, never mind. So then we see Faustus a little bit later on. The powers are still pretty new. He's spent a little bit of time just touring the universe and seeing everything from way up high in this sled with, I think, dragons pulling him. And then he also tours Europe. And then he goes to a luncheon of the popes, and he starts playing these practical jokes on the Pope. And what we see of him, it is not very much. He doesn't really do great things. After playing a number of just, again, stupid jokes on the Pope, which are also disrespectful, he goes to visit an emperor, and one of the noblemen in the emperor's court doesn't really believe that Faustus is the real thing. And so anyway, Faustus doesn't like to hear someone questioning him, so he makes antlers or horns grow out of this man's head. So he does things like that are just kind of stupid, or don't, like, silly pranks. And so it begs the question, well, I'll stop there. But that is the story in a nutshell. So when it begins, the chorus is introducing Faustus. Let's see, just trying to find my text. When it begins, the chorus is introducing Faustus. They give us a little bit of background information on him. We learn that he is from a humble family. So he's definitely accomplished I forgot to say that he's been at school in Wittenberg, in the university in Wittenberg, which I think Hamlet also went there. So that is a significant accomplishment. And just in studying there and coming from such humble background, that's definitely a step up, or upward mobility, which was something that was new. I don't even know if upward mobility, that's probably too, I'm probably overstepping, but he's moving up, I guess you could say. So that is noteworthy. And as the chorus also compares him to Icarus. That's the guy who made the wax wings, and he flew too close to the sun, and the wax melted, and the wings fell apart, and I think he fell down into the ocean. But he definitely fell out of the sky. And the chorus tells us that that this same type of fall happens to Faustus, and that it is because of his conceit. So, and then Faustus, we're told, is in his study, and he's sitting there, and he literally rattles off the different fields that he has mastered. He starts with philosophy and logic, and he mentions specifically Aristotle. And his basic point is that the greatest miracle that this discipline affords is the ability to argue well. And he says, well, he dismisses that, and then he notes that he has studied to be a doctor, and that he has been noted for his cures. and then he says that the point of medicine is, man's health, and that he has achieved, he's done that. He's helped man to be healthy. Are not thy bills hung up as monuments? He's just saying that his prescriptions have been, he's exaggerating, of course, because they're not held by people as monuments, but that's what he's comparing his prescriptions to. And then he says that whole cities have escaped the plague, because of him. And sorry, one second. Okay, so that's quite an accomplishment if it's true, but even if he's exaggerating, it still sounds like he did some good. And then he also notes that, again, probably exaggerating, but 1,000 desperate maladies being cured because of him. And his closing point is, yet thou art still Faustus and still a man. If you could make men live forever or raise them from dead to life, then this would be something worth doing. But he can't. So he continues. He says that he's not interested in studying the law. Then he discusses theology. And I'm going to stop after this point. But he closes with theology, and this is where, so Marlowe, I forgot to say this in the beginning, it was pretty much known that Marlowe was an atheist. You couldn't be an atheist at this point in time, but Marlowe was nonetheless, I guess you could say, notorious for his atheistic beliefs. So this play, on the surface or at first glance, it seems very conventional in terms of its message, and I'll explain what I mean. Faustus makes a deal with the devil, right? He gets Mephistopheles at his beck and call for 24 years, but then at the end of the 24 years, his soul is the devil's. He must go to hell, and we see him at the end of the play as he's getting dragged off to hell forever. So it seems like this guy does something he shouldn't do. He makes a pact with the devil. He questions God, and he gets punished for it very severely. So it seems like it's a cautionary tale. It seems like it sends the message that, you shouldn't question authority, that you shouldn't think you know everything, that you shouldn't do anything, that you should play it safe, not question things, not challenge authority. But the editors of the Norton anthology, their argument is that, no, that's too easy. That there is a force beneath the surface that is very anti-authoritarian. It's very anti-authority, and that is very rebellious, and that is really questioning things. So that's a question that I would like you to try and think about. And what is that force? Do you see a force that is not socially and morally conventional? If so, what is the force? Because it again, the play does seem to be saying, don't question religion, don't challenge authority. So for now, that's what I'd like you to think about. Also, you might want to think of Faustus again as the exceptional man, and then consider this. So this play was performed at the Globe Theater, and most of the people in the audience would have been like groundlings or the working class. And what do you think the draw in Faustus would have been for them? And that's not just me asking this question, that's actually something that's been commented on or noted. What would the groundlings have thought about Faustus? Would they have been able to relate to to his dilemma, and that is, of course, his existential dilemma. Because, you know, at the beginning, we see him and he's done everything right. You know, he studied hard, got into a good college, and then he goes to or university. Then at the university, he studies well. He studies with honors, and then he masters several disciplines, all of which are supposed to, help one to live a good life. And he gains all this knowledge, which is also something that's supposed to help one live a good life. But he's not happy. And he literally, at the beginning of the play, thinks that the only thing that can help him to live a fulfilled life is learning this black magic. So, so what, I don't know, message do you see, not just at the beginning, but when you look at the play overall, and then think about Faustus, back to the groundlings at the Globe. So what would they have thought of him? Would they have been able to empathize or to relate to him? Or would he have seemed, I don't know, just what would the groundlings have thought of Faustus? We have no way of knowing that, but I think it's an interesting question, just because he is such an overachiever, even for us today. So why is it that he was so, so unhappy, I guess? I think that's something interesting to consider. Oh, this is the last thing. So there are both angelic forces in the play and evil or bad. But the angelic forces are outnumbered by the bad, the evil. For good, we have the old man who appears towards the end, and the good angel. And then we also have the evil angel. We have Lucifer, we have Mephistopheles, we have the 7 deadly sins. So why do you think it is, or you don't have to come up with an answer, but just I think it's interesting to note that there are more manifestations of the demonic than there are of the good or the angelic. So I'm also going to send you reading questions, but I hope this helps get you started, and hope this was helpful. Bye.